Mom guilt is a real thing and it really, really stinks. It can rob us of so much joy. And I'm sure you've questioned whether or not you were doing a good enough job at this whole mom thing. So today, let's talk about it.
Welcome to the Far More Podcast.
Welcome back to another episode of the Far More Podcast. I am your co-host, Liz Brock. And for those who don't know me, hi, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. I am a mom of 3 kids. They are 8, 10, and almost 12 at the time of this recording in August of 2024. And I have recently spoken to quite a few moms about the topic we're talking about today, and it's that of mom guilt. So it's nearing the end of August right now, and with school starting back up, so many routines are changing for a lot of us moms. And this can be a time of year when that mom guilt really begins to settle in. Dun, dun, dun. Like you might be going back to work if you're a teacher or if you took the summer off. Or your kids are spending less time at home because, obviously they're back in school and there are clubs and there are practices and there are games and all the things. And it can start to feel like you're being pulled in so many different directions. And suddenly you start to question. You start to question whether you are good enough as a mom. Maybe you're like me. And while you are glad and grateful that your kids are back at school because it frees up some time during the day to focus on other things, you actually might start to feel bad about feeling that way. It's a mess, isn't it? Or you're sad the summer's over because you feel like you just didn't soak it in enough. You didn't enjoy the moments that you had with your kids. Or maybe you're like some of the gals I've talked to and your kids are driving now. Like, hello, what is that like? But maybe your kid is driving and now all of a sudden you feel like you never see them. And you begin to wonder, like, did I impart all of the knowledge and all of the wisdom that I should have? Did I remember to tell my daughter, teach her how to stand up for herself? Did I teach our son how to show respect? There are so many ways that mom guilt can show up. It's not just a one size fits all. So today, let's talk about how we can get past the mom guilt and be the confident and joyful moms that we really want to be while minimizing any regrets. Like, I think it's impossible to live a life with zero regret, but I do believe that it's possible for us to minimize those regrets. So mom guilt is kind of like this buzz phrase, isn't it? I mean, it really gets thrown around a lot. And it's this weird combo of societal pressures as well as these expectations that we put on ourselves. And so these societal norms that have been presented to us as what a good mom, quote unquote, should be, mixed with these own expectations on what we think we should be as a mom. And a lot of that is based on how we were raised, or even the opposite. Maybe you don't love how you were raised and you're trying to do something radically different, breaking generational cycles or habits or what have you. And that comes with its own layer of expectations that you put on yourself. So you combine that with the worries and the concerns and the shoulda, coulda, woulda. I should be doing more of this. I should be doing less of that. And before you know it, you're shoulding all over yourself and getting that should all over the place. Sorry, y'all. I couldn't resist. But in all seriousness, then there are all the social comparisons, all the things that you see around you, whether it's in your neighborhood, at your kid's school, in your social circle at church, maybe other moms at work, yada, yada, yada. And finally, let's not forget to sprinkle in all the input from those expert online sources like parenting blogs and podcasts and social media and Pinterest. And little side note, I legit cannot get on Pinterest unless it's just to find a cute new haircut, because all of the perfectly staged everythings, it's just too much for my brain. So you bring all of that together, and here we are with some garden variety mom guilt. And let me be real clear here. This can happen to any mom. The stay-at-home mom, the work-from-home mom, the works full-time outside the home mom, the mom who has a side hustle mom, and on and on and on. Like, no mom, I don't believe that any mother is immune to this type of thing. And they all come with their own set of issues, right? You work full-time, you're likely thinking you're not spending enough time with your kids. Or you're part-time, you're likely stressed about not spending enough time at work. Then if you're a full-time stay-at-home mom, well, you better be keeping up with the Pinterest moms now that you have all the time in the world. Are you a room mom? Are you volunteering? Are you teaching your child a second language? Are you cooking all organic meals? And are you having fun while you do it with a beaming, grateful smile plastered to your face? Listen, you better not complain one bit. I mean, that's just ungrateful. And maybe you're the entrepreneurial mom where your lines just have been totally blurred. It's so difficult to figure out when you're working, when you're not working, how much you're working. So much pressure to decide how to juggle your time. And if you love what you do and you work extra, I mean, do you even love your children? Okay, why am I saying all these mean, horrible things? Well, it's because I've heard some of my closest gal pals talk to themselves in one of these ways, and I know that they are not alone. You've likely had these voices in your head, especially if you are still listening to this episode. You have judged yourself. You've wondered if the grass was greener. We're all dealing with this kind of mess. It sort of feels messy sometimes, right? Like motherhood in the modern world, where we have all of these choices and all of these pressures and all of these decisions to make. So I just want to acknowledge for a minute that this is hard. And wherever you fall on this spectrum, you are not alone. It can be really frustrating and defeating, when you have these thoughts and you kind of get caught in this web of feeling guilty about whatever choice you did make. It's like nothing is ever going to be good enough. And here's the thing. It's not always some made up guilt. Sometimes the guilt is there for a reason. Like it could be this underlying indicator that you do in fact need to change something. If you feel a really strong tug in your heart that it's time to go back to work because you've been at home, or maybe you're at work and it's time to cut back hours or set some new boundaries, those are things that are worth exploring through prayer, discussions with your spouse, seeking wise counsel, and all those things. But a lot of the time, it's not that kind of guilt. It's the guilt that you don't need. It's the unnecessary guilt. So for the purpose of this episode, just know that we're talking about that situation where you really feel like you're in the right place for your family or where your family needs you to be, but that constant guilt trip in your head just won't stop. So you may be having thoughts like, I'm not doing enough. I'm not fun enough. I'm too strict. I'm too lenient. My kids don't wear brand name clothes. They don't have phones. They do have phones. Why don't they have any friends? It must be my fault because I didn't teach them enough how to be social. I am not enough. Guess what? You're right on the last one. You're not enough, and that's okay. That's how God designed it to be. And if you don't partner with God, you will never be enough. But here is the amazing news, my dear friends and listeners. The beautiful part of being a mother and a believer is that we are meant to partner with God. We are designed to partner with God when it comes to our kids. That's His desire. And it really takes the pressure off of you because you are not solely responsible for your child. In fact, and some of you may disagree with this, but they don't even really belong to you. They belong to God. They are a gift to you from Him. And I actually did a Facebook post just this morning citing Genesis chapter 33, verse 5. These are the children God has given me. God has been good to me. And I can assure you that He is doing so much work behind the scenes on behalf of you and on behalf of your child, who, by the way, He actually loves more than you do. And I know that that's so hard to imagine because we love them so much. But He loves them so much more than we do. And I don't know about you, but I take great comfort in that. And every time you feel weak, I want you to think of it as an opportunity to let God fill in the gaps here. His strength is made perfect in our weakness because that's where He shows up. He fills in those gaps for us. And honestly, y'all, isn't that something that you want to teach your children? That they don't have to do everything and be everything and do it all so very perfectly with a smile plastered to their cute little faces. Like, the pressure on kids these days, whether it's with sports or grades or what college they're going to go to or what they're going to do for a job, it feels so much more intense than it was when I was growing up. So what better gift to give our children than to show them through our lives what it looks like to lean on God's grace and His strength instead of trying to just do everything perfectly and running ourselves into the ground in the process. So let's do more of that. Let's do more of leaning into the Lord and showing our kids how to depend on Him. So practically speaking, what does this even look like? So at the time of this recording, we just wrapped up the Summer Olympics not too long ago, which was super fun to watch. Like, we really got into it at the Brock house. Like, where is Snoop Dogg going to be next? And as I was preparing for this episode, I was thinking about how it relates to our lives as moms and really just as women in general, because one of the biggest reasons we have mom guilt is from watching what other moms are doing, right? We are watching someone else, whether it's on social media or the dreaded Pinterest or even just reading articles, talking to other moms in person, or watching how they interact with their kids. We are keenly aware of all of the other options, all of the other things that we could be doing, other choices we could be making. But here's the thing. When you compare yourself to another mom, there's a really good chance that you're actually trying to compete in two totally different sports per se as a mom, like if we're going with this whole Summer Olympics theme. So the mom you're comparing yourself to, she's running hurdles and you're a swimmer. So the two of you are going to train differently. You're going to have different body types. You're going to have different breathing techniques. You're even going to fuel yourselves differently. You're a swimmer, so your speed on the track is totally irrelevant. She's a hurdler, so her speed in the pool is totally irrelevant. You can both win a gold medal because you are not competing against each other. So even if you're both, let's say, working moms, and you have the same amount of kids, they're the same age, and it kind of looks on the surface like they might be the same, you're not in the same event because the variables are never ending. Are you a single mom? Are you a married mom? Is your husband supportive? Is he not supportive? Does he work full time? Is he remote? Do you have a family member nearby who helps you out, or does it all rest on your shoulders? Is someone in your home struggling with a chronic illness or special needs? Do you struggle with a chronic illness? Are you starting to see the point I'm trying to make here? Like, do you see how ridiculous it is to compare yourself with literally anyone else? We have got to stop the comparison because it's all irrelevant. I almost said irreverent. And maybe it's that too. Maybe that was a faux pas. It's irrelevant and irreverent. God is leading you in your life, not her in your life, and not you in her life. God is going to be your direction, your guiding light, if you will, with your kids and your husband and your job. And in the end, we want what 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 7 says. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. That's really what we want at the end of our lives. I mean, my only real goal is that I want to be able to say, I fought the good fight. I ran the race set out for me. Emphasis here on me. And I want to run it well. I want to show my kids what strong faith is. And like, if you go to that verse and you back up just a few verses, Timothy gives these instructions. He says, preach the word, be prepared in season and out of season to correct, rebuke, and encourage with great patience and careful instruction. So that's actually our calling as moms. We need to be focused on sharing Jesus with our children and everybody around us. Our kids need to see us living this out, not just hearing us talk about it or hear it preached from the pulpit or from the Sunday school lesson on Sundays. We need to be prepared to tell our stories, be prepared to share. That's so much more important than finding the right tutor and making the perfect organic meals and having perfectly planned family fun nights. And while all of those things are good, it's just not as important as our relationship with Jesus. Listen, does your kid know how much you love them? Do you apologize and ask them for forgiveness when you mess up? Do you show them that having a relationship with Jesus is a priority? You can rest in knowing that God cares about and loves your children so much. We don't have to have all of this mom stuff figured out. And I don't have to feel bad and feel guilty and walk around feeling like I'm just never enough. And if that's where you are and you want to talk about it, I'd love to walk on that journey with you and just bring you some encouragement and some clarity and maybe even help you streamline some routines so you do feel better about how life is going for you right now. And I know that it sometimes just feels like things are crumbling and you're like, can't I just get anything right? And sometimes there are just some very practical things that can make life easier and make you feel more connected. So if you want to connect with me, just pause me right now, go to the show notes and click on the Connect with Liz link. And we can find some time to connect and see what little steps you could be taking to feel more peaceful and more joyful and confident when it comes to your motherhood. So again, pause me right now, go do that. So I'm just so glad you're here. I hope you know that because I genuinely mean it. And today was hard for me because I struggle just like every other mom I have ever spoken to. I struggle with this mom guilt stuff too, y'all. And I don't have it all figured out. I feel like I have a few things figured out and my kids and I have a very close relationship, but it takes intentionality. It takes sacrifice. It takes meeting them where they are. Like, all three of my kids, and I'm sure for those who have multiple children, you're going to understand this. Every kid is different and they respond differently. And so figuring out kind of what each kid needs is a key. It's key because they don't respond to the same love language. They don't respond to the same discipline. They are all unique. And so figuring out what makes them click and what works and what doesn't work is just as important as just the spending time with them. So if you aren't following us on social media, we are at Far More Podcast on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. And again, I'm so glad you're here. If you found any value in this at all, just share it with a mom. Just send her a quick text. Just share it from whatever app that you're listening to this podcast on. Just send a quick link because I think most moms deal with this mom guilt, and maybe they just need to hear that they're not alone, or maybe they need a little bit of encouragement, or maybe they need a little bit of help. Like I said, streamlining some processes in their house to free up some time to maybe spend with the kids, or just some ideas on easy peasy games. Like my kids find immense joy in game night. And it's a great time for us to get together. And as we're playing the games, Jason and I are sort of peppering them with little questions here and there just to get to know them better and just to find out like what's going on in their lives. And so just give that a try. Shoot me an email, whatever you need to do. I'm so glad you're here, and I will catch you all next time.